Hello, welcome to Conversations. Today's conversation is about the issue of domestic violence, something that may be very hard for some of you to understand. With us today will be Candice Howard, a survivor of domestic violence, along with Melissa Higgins, the director of Women Helping Women in Metuchen. They're going to try to help us to understand the mind of a woman and a family that are in this situation. To better understand some of the emotions behind this issue, I'd like you to take a look at this clip provided to us from Women Helping Women.
I started to get a lot of fear come back. A lot of fear that I had after I had my daughter. And I started drinking a lot more. And I remember hearing children who were abused can turn out to be abusive parents, and that wasn't going to happen. I had no coping skills when I put down the bottle. AA taught me a little bit how to live my life without drinking. You know, I was abused on a weekly basis by my father from, like, say, the age of 9 until I was out of the house at 20. I realized I was turning into my father.
I guess when you're in it, you don't see the forest through the trees, kind of a thing. He had said that he wanted to leave us. It was just, the whole thing was very bizarre. But then now that I look at things, he was very controlling, and the kids were supposed to just, as soon as he got home, they were supposed to sit on the couch like little soldiers and, you know, do nothing. I was never allowed out more than an hour or so, and if I was gone any more than an hour, you know, he'd be really angry. And there was such a rage in him. It was this, I didn't know who this was. You didn't want to be out. You wanted to hurry up home, you know, or just not go. He started to say things that he was going to hurt the children. And he'd say, like, he hoped that they'd be alive when I got home.
I think you'll agree that's a very powerful piece. Joining me is Candice Howard. Hello,
Hi.
Candice. Candice is the Vice President of Women Helping Women who provided that piece to us. Candice, what kind of emotions does that piece invoke in you?
Well, I think as a survivor of domestic violence and going through the process of making the video was very emotional. And actually seeing the finished piece reminded me of some of the things that had happened to my family and brought back a lot of strong emotions for both my mother and me when we saw it on the big screen.
When I expected to see a video about domestic violence, I wondered, well, how are they going to be able to transfer feelings? And I think it was really well done. What kind of things got stirred up in you, Candice?
Well, I think that my mom had finally decided to get out of the situation she was in when my biological father started threatening to hurt us, my sister and me. And there was one part in that clip where the woman talks about she didn't know if the children would be alive or dead when she got home. And that really hit home for my mom and for me.
With some time, have you come to see that that is atypical of this situation, that a woman may allow it when it's just her, but when it comes to children, then it's time to get it to stop?
Absolutely. My mom has always said to me that she was numb. There was nothing more that he could do to hurt her. He had done everything possible to hurt her, and when he couldn't hurt her anymore, he started threatening to hurt us. And that was when she said, I have to get out. I have to save my kids.
So she had the courage to do it for her children. Very
Absolutely.
admirable, very admirable. The people living around you, the teachers, the neighbors, was anybody aware? Because we all think this can't be happening in my neighborhood or my next door neighbor. Were they aware?
I think that all of our neighbors were aware. I was very young, so I have very hazy memories of what was going on at the time, but I do remember being over at my neighbors' houses when my mom would send us over to our neighbors' houses to protect us, or we'd sleep over somebody's house so that she could get us out of the house for a while to protect us.
For the people maybe that haven't experienced this, day to day, is there always an underlying tension, like something may erupt? Is that what a child feels?
Always. I remember, I have very few memories of my childhood, but I do remember sleeping in my bed and coughing. And my father came into the room, and I remember saying to him, "I'm not crying, Daddy, I'm coughing," because I was afraid to cry because we weren't allowed to cry.
Now, children so influenced by what happens in those early years, did you carry that with you for a long time?
I carried it with me for a very long time. My parents were divorced when I was 5, but I do remember, actually, this is an incident soon after my parents got divorced, that I was 6 years old, and I had a friend that I insisted she was not allowed to have any other friends. And I actually got thrown out of Brownies for pretty much terrorizing her, and I didn't realize it until actually very recently that I was emulating the behavior that I saw of that overpowering someone and isolating them.
Well, children learn how to love by observing their parents, and if for you this was a definition of love or affection or care, it really set you up for that kind of future, didn't it?
Absolutely.
So, Candice, much like your mother, there was a point when you decided to get some help for yourself.
Well, when I was very young, I didn't. My parents thought that all I needed was love in order to get better, because I was showing this kind of behavior. And I needed a lot more than love. And when I was older, when I became an adult, was when I really started to deal with the feelings that I had had, the trauma that I had gone through as a child. And I went into therapy and started trying to take care of all of the feelings that I had pretty much kept inside for many years.
How about your relationship with your mother? And what are some of your thoughts about your mother, having seen her go through so much?
I'm very proud of my mother, and I'm grateful to her for caring about us and for loving us and getting us out of the situation. And I'm grateful to her for raising us in a way that my sister and I, neither of us have ever been in this kind of relationship, because my mom taught us that we need to be able to take care of ourselves, and we need to watch for the signs that could mean that you're in an abusive relationship.
Because so often the cycle does repeat itself, doesn't it, if it's not taken care of. Candice, as I understand some of the psychology behind abusive situations, there's a lot of lies and secrecy can really, really keep you in that situation. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I think that I don't remember a lot about what happened in my childhood, but my mom did keep a lot of secrets, and I think she kept a lot of secrets to protect us emotionally and physically. And I recently found out, maybe just a few years ago, that my father had thrown me into my crib as a child and broken my leg.
Oh, God.
And all of these years, I thought that I was in a cast. I knew I was in a cast during the first year of my life. I thought that I was in a cast because I had some kind of bone disease. And my mom had really kept up this story for 25 years. And she finally told me one night when we were talking that that's not what really happened. So there was a lot of secret keeping.
Do you resent your mother for those secrets?
No. No, I'm glad she told me, but I know that she did what she thought was right to protect us.
And you and your sister, the relationship good?
Oh, we're best friends.
Close, perhaps even
close.
closer than most.
I think my sister and I have always felt that we had each other, no matter what. And when anything went wrong, we always clung to each other. And I think that's definitely from having gone through that trauma together.
Now, you're a wife.
Yes.
And a mother, and now an advocate and a very brave spokesperson
Thank you.
for getting out of domestic situations like that. As a wife and a mother, are there checks and balances, having come from this kind of upbringing, that you take all the time?
I always fear losing my temper because I have that history in my family, because I have a temper that I've worked all my life to keep under control, and it actually is less and less all the time. But I do have that fear And when I do lose my temper or I raise my voice, I'm always thinking, am I being abusive? And it scares me. So I try very hard not to lose my temper, to keep my calm, and yelling is a very difficult thing for me. It jars me when I hear yelling.
Well, that's understandable.
Right. And I don't like to do that to my daughter because I don't want her to have that kind of fear in her life.
Well, it sounds like there were three very brave women in your family, your sister and your mother and yourself. And speaking out as you do and working as an advocate as you do, I find very admirable. And,
Thank you.
and maybe today, as you and I have this conversation, someone is listening in, someone is watching, and maybe in denial, you know, maybe keeping the dirty secrets. And your act of courage will give them some courage.
I think that there's nothing that's so horrible that you can't tell somebody in order to save yourself and your children. And I hope that people will come to Women Helping Women and know that they have a safe place to go when they need help.
Candice, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Terrific.
I was going to pick up a drink if I didn't pick up the phone. Oh, I was terrified.
I was skeptical, and I remember thinking, oh, they're just going to be this pat answers and say, buck up and get out there, you know.
No, when I walked in the door, I had a good feeling. It's like I was in the right place.
There's a warmth that they really care about everybody.
I was not alone in how I felt, and women had gone through this before me.
They give you a different outlook to look at something in a way where when you're in the middle of it, you may not see it that way.
If you're just joining us, today's topic or conversation is domestic violence, a subject that you may not want to think about, one that is hard for you to grasp or understand, or if you've been involved in a domestic violence situation, one that there may not seem to be much hope to you right now. Joining me is Melissa Higgins, the Executive Director of Women Helping Women. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We need to better understand this issue of domestic violence, and from the statistics I've read, rampant in this country. What is domestic violence?
Domestic violence in a relationship, it occurs in an intimate relationship, and it involves power. That's, I think, one of the most important aspects of the relationship, becomes power. And when one partner in the relationship exerts power in inappropriate ways, such as control, hitting, threatening, criticizing, maybe threatening behaviors like punching walls, you know, stalking, that's all forms of domestic violence.
So that's a catch-all term, really, for relationships of any sort that are in trouble. So this can be a dating relationship, not necessarily people living together.
Exactly.
College roommates, boyfriend, girlfriend, high school sweethearts. It could reach that far.
Sure, sure. Actually, the most common age, the most victims of domestic violence are between 19 and 29.
Really surprising statistic.
Yeah. So it really, but you know, teenagers also have these issues of control, and you know, if people grow up in a family where there's domestic violence, they're much more likely to get involved in relationships where there is a power differential.
So it could even be just unhealthy friendships among girls and girls and boys, not necessarily in the married situation.
Right, right.
Very interesting. This idea of power seems to be a driving force in American culture today on all levels, whether it be business or whether it be in something which should be as carefree as a romance.
Right.
When do you start to see an unbalance of power, or what might be an indication that there are some relationships maybe going out of control?
Oftentimes it starts in a dating relationship before marriage, and what might happen is you know, the partner may start controlling things like money, telling the girlfriend what to wear, how to dress,
cut your hair.
how to, right, exactly.
Okay.
And then threats. You know, there may be threats involved. Control, like not having other friends. A lot of perpetrators of domestic violence, they have a need to control and keep people close to them. So, you know, they may insist that you change your friends, stay home, stay with him. So there's a lot of control issues. And then it escalates.
That was my next thought. I mean, a lot of women, when you often hear that they're in these kind of situations, they turn around and they say, but he was lovely, or he wasn't always like this, or I didn't know. Can it escalate to the point where Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
Sure. A lot of times it happens after marriage. You know, the threats become more severe, the control. Money is a big power in a relationship, and many abusers will limit access to all money. You know, they may control all the checkbooks, the money, the children. You know, everything comes into a power struggle between the people.
Yeah. Now, people that are involved in domestic violence, usually we talked with Candice Howard, her experience in families trying to hide these symptoms. Are there things that the clergy, teachers, neighbors, what might we be seeing that might be indicators that something's wrong?
Well, with kids, a lot of times they will have problems in school, problems concentrating, doing homework. They may act out in school. Other kids may become real shy and withdrawn and not talk much. The whole idea of having, you know, secrets in the family, they never know what they're supposed to say, so they may tend to withdraw and not be one of the social kids in a school. We also can see some children revert back to old behaviors like thumb sucking or bedwetting, right? There could be depression. You could start seeing depression in a child, just really
Acting out on all
right,
levels.
right.
Do you see, in your experience, have you seen difference in siblings, in the way siblings handle it? Does it ever get to a point where there is taking sides? Protecting mom, protecting dad. Is that the kind of thing that develops?
Well, there's a big problem with loyalty, you know, in a family that involves domestic violence, because, you know, they may want to protect their mother, but they also love their father if it's the father who's doing the abusing. And, you know, that's a real conflict for a child. How can I love my father who is hurting my mother so much? So they're always in a bind. They also may develop you know, some physical problems. A lot of young children who have headaches.
The bellyache, can't go to school
Belly aches, right. And they may, you know, there's a lot of reasons that the kids are scared all the time.
Are there enough resources in the community, in your opinion, to handle the epidemic of abuse?
No, absolutely not. You know, with the statistics of how many women are abused, the resources in each county are so limited. We get lots of phone calls from women who are not yet ready to leave, because it really is a process.
It's an economic issue in most cases, because I have known people that are trapped.
Right.
And when you say to them, for God's sake, get out, it's, well, how will I eat? How will I live? Do you almost always see that as an economic issue?
It's always a part of it. I think you mentioned before, like, he's not always like this. And what happens with domestic violence, a lot of times after an incident, things, you know, start going great again. And he may apologize and, you know, buy flowers and make things right, try to make things right. And that, you know, they want to believe. They want to believe that he's really changing.
Sure. Well, in something like that, anger management classes and counseling, they can work, but is once an abuser always an abuser?
Well, he really has to take responsibility for his behavior. And, you know, that's really hard for a lot of people who do abuse to take responsibility for that abuse and not blame it on drinking, you know, the woman, the wife, the kids, the economics. It really is his responsibility.
Do you sometimes see other problems associated or that grow from domestic violence through this power struggle, other psychological problems?
Sure. when women are constantly put down and criticized, and not just women, anyone really, you know, self-esteem starts to suffer, and many women who are victims of domestic violence will become depressed, like clinically depressed, unable to sometimes even get through a day, just feeling so down. Some women attempt suicide. That's a risk. Also, alcoholism or substance abuse, because they're trying to numb their feelings about what's going on in their family. So there's all kinds of symptoms that go along with domestic violence.
Beside the threat of potential violence in retribution is the threat of homelessness in many situations, which has to be just incredible.
It's very common for abusers to make threats about taking the kids away, you know, never letting her see them again, harming them in some way. And that, you know, talk about trapped. You know, most mothers are trying to protect their children with everything they have. And, you know, the person that's the closest to the children is threatening to harm them or hurt them.
What usually happens when a friend, a sister, family members, do they get tired of the promises? Do they say, leave him, and that must be the worst thing to give up on a sister or a brother or a family?
Yeah. I think that people have a tendency to become impatient with victims of domestic violence, because it's easy to see from the outside. It's clear. You know, it's clear, you know, you're on the outside, how easy it would be to leave. But really, the woman in the situation knows best what she needs to do. And a lot of women are afraid to leave because they think they may be killed. And the fact is that a lot of men who abuse women will kill them at some point. So they really need to be the ones who to decide when it's safe and what resources they need before they can leave. And sometimes that can take years.
Do the police and the criminal justice system have a better understanding today than, let's say, 10 years ago of the symptoms and the ramifications of domestic violence?
I think.
Do they get it?
Well, I think it's better than 10 years ago. And I think that
there's a way to go.
Yeah, there still is. A lot more training needs to be done. Also in schools, I think that, you know, we need to reach out to younger women, adolescents and young girls, and teach them about power and relationships. And
it all goes to self-esteem, doesn't it? And how you're feeling about yourself. The way you feel about yourself, people know when they can treat you well and when they can maybe abuse, and often people look for victims.
Right. And even feeling worthy, you know, back to self-esteem, it's like even feeling worthy to be treated good and appropriately.
So we don't spend a lot of time on teaching relationship building and dating and courting, and we don't take time with that, and I think that's really important. Now, places like Women Helping Women, 25 years in Metuchen of reaching out and helping women, just one of the many resources. What could a woman expect coming and reaching out to Women Helping Women?
Most of the people call up on our helpline, and they can expect to have the call answered by a trained volunteer or a staff member who will talk to them a bit on the phone, find out what's going on, what their situation is, and then depending on what they're looking for, we'll offer them one of our many services. We do individual therapy, so they may come in and see a therapist and work on those issues that they need to build up themselves before they're able to leave a relationship. We also have therapy groups and support groups, so many women will go to one of our support groups, self-esteem support group, and in there, they're with other women who are in maybe similar situations, maybe a little better situations, and they learn how they have gotten out of relationships. And we also have legal clinics. Maybe somebody is looking to talk to a lawyer and see what really is involved in leaving.
It costs money to leave as well.
Right, it does.
Well, the beauty of Women Helping Women is just that. Women helping other women, and when they have recovered, people like Candice Howard reaching out and helping others. I find that really very gratifying about your organization. So, Melissa, there is hope.
There is hope.
And there are organizations like Women Helping Women, and it can be done. It's not going to be easy, but it can be done.
Yes.
And here is a message of hope.
I would start to get, like, I started to get happy at the little things with life again. Because I look at where I've come from and what I've accomplished, what I was like, you know, and where I was. It's a miracle, it really is.
And I do tell people about this group because they're part of the building blocks that I have that have kept me strong for my kids and for myself. And I would just keep encouraging them or her to come here because I don't know what I would do without the people here. They've helped me so much.
You may not know someone that is the victim of domestic abuse or violence, or you just may not be aware of it. Certainly a difficult topic to think about, to discuss, but there is hope, and organizations like Women Helping Women, and in your own community there are organizations that will reach out and help people even in the most dire situations. I think the toughest thing is trying to get somebody to seek that help and having them come to the realization that it's time to go, or it's time to get help, or in some cases give everything up and leave. And I just can't imagine having to be in that spot. And from my experience, knowing people that have been in this situation, the hardest thing is being there for them and not losing patience and being able to support them no matter what it takes. So if you know someone that is the victim of domestic violence or abuse, be a help to them. Don't lose your patience, and try to get them into the community resources like Women Helping Women, or in your own community through the police department. Each of them has a committee to help people get relocated even if necessary. So another conversation with me here, a difficult one certainly. But no matter what, there's nothing like a good conversation. So please join us again.